The ones I'm saying are the speech. There's no other speech after what I'm saying. So, look at it this way. We are here as Africa. In our generation, China has gotten transformed. The China you know, which is building roads in all our African countries. All of you looking at me, there are Chinese in your country building roads. Gaborone from airport, I saw a big project. You dig deeper, China. Here in Kenya, of course. Ethiopia, I saw Ethiopians. Addis is now a very booming city in Africa. We are all proud of it. So China got transformed from 1978. This is what happened. There was a man who was called Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was the president of China, or the leader of the Communist Party of China, prior to 1976. So he did the work of uniting Chinese people to be who they are. So that's the work he did. Most of his policies were not sound economically speaking. One was called Cultural Revolution. Some of his policies led to millions of Chinese dying out of hunger. But we remember him as a unifier. So he passed on in 1976. There was a gang of 4 people who didn't want a man called Deng Xiaoping to become president. So they delayed him for 2 years up to 1978. In 1978, a man called Deng Xiaoping became president of China. Park it there in your mind. There's a point I want to drive home. Park Deng Xiaoping somewhere in your mind. South Korea, when Kenya was getting independence, just around the same time all our African countries, most of them were getting independence, here comes South Korea. A man called General Park becomes president. He was actually a general of the army. The man becomes president in 1960. And he starts something called an export-led growth economy in South Korea. And the man comes up with a committee which was meeting every month once. For 19 years, he was president. He never missed one meeting. The exports of South Korea grew by 364 times in the 19 years he was president. Forgive me, I'm talking even like blowing this mic away. Because this is where the bigger problem of Africa lies. And this is where our solution will come from. Chinese people never came up with oil in 1978. There are no minerals that they got from 1978. South Korea, they never came up with oil or gold or silver like the abundance of it in South Africa and Botswana. They came up with one gold standard called leadership. That out of a decision of 2 men, out of a decision of General Park, out of the decisions made by Deng Xiaoping, that now the Chinese people who are more poorer than us, the South Koreans who are at the same level as Tanzanians, now they can only lend us money and teach us how to live. Leadership. Many times we trivialize what decision-making means as a leader, you included. But I want to tell you, the transformation of the entire world, of the church, of countries, of continents, none came about because this country got oil and the other one got gold. If that was the standard, there are many who have gotten oil and others gold, and they are more poor. So when we talk about leadership, leadership, I am repeating, goes beyond the small decisions we are making about small things. Leadership has to go further. That Singapore, the one we know today, At independence, around the same time with Kenya and all of us seated here, those guys, we were at the same level. If you went somewhere and you saw a Chinese, a South Korean, and a Singaporean, you as an African, they would have paved the way for you to fast pass because you are wealthier than them. That one distinction, one thing, has led to all this difference. Leaders who are selfless, leaders who wake up in the morning to think about their countries, and leaders who do the right thing for our continent. I'm not talking about your presidents in many various African countries. I'm talking about the leaders in this hall today. So I was at the side of poverty, but I brought in here because even if we talk about many things, what is poverty? We measure it in various dimensions. GDP per capita, that's GDP per person. Income per capita, income per person. So if we are talking about a South Korean who is maybe 20 times richer than me. So I would rather then talk about South Korea and forget everything else. Because in our generation, they have been able to live better lives in multiples than all of us, including the years they live. Just because of leadership. But here at home, what do we do? When maybe those other leaders were thinking about their countries growing exports, establishing huge companies like Samsung and Hyundai, us around here, we were talking about who gets the bigger size of land. We were talking about our own children, how they go to Europe to study. Instead of bringing that Europe to our continent, we took a few of us there, and our continent still lags behind. We must break forth from this. And there is a bigger calling we have as church leaders. The bigger calling is to advocate for the right leadership in the African continent. The wealthiest country, the top 10 wealthiest country in the world. And they are here as the poorest, among the poorest in the world. We must not accept that as Africans. Even if we do whatever we want to do, in our own small ways, in our own cocoons, and we don't come out to propagate and to fashion and to demand for the right leadership, we are letting our continent down. So, poverty is where my point was. My brother here is in the UK, was in the UK. He'll have a congregation of 10 people. They'll do something that will help much more than a congregation of 10,000. Why? Those people are empowered. Even if they are 10. I'm totally speaking Spartan about the money part. Because we talked about spiritual part. It's me to sit, you tell me. I can't tell you much about that because I'll be teaching the fish how to swim, which I don't want to go into that area. So, these people are empowered. So when we talk about we are poor and the other people are rich, what are we talking about? First of all, we are talking about they are able to afford necessities. They are no longer talking about where to sleep. They are no longer talking about where to go to school and healthcare. Their needs are higher. They are done with the basics. Then second thing, which is critical and important, and it's the same thing I started with in terms of education, is something called productivity per person. When we say Africa is not as endowed, and we compare an African with a South Korean, what are we actually comparing? South Korea has the same population as Kenya. Let me use Kenya as a laboratory here. So South Korea is in the ranges of 50 millions. Kenya is in the same range. So when we talk about the countries that are advanced, then what are we talking about? Then Kenya should be the same as South Korea because our populations is the same. And it's the people who matter. Then why are we different? Why are we different? It's because of the productivity per every person. The productivity of this South Korean vis-a-vis the productivity of this Kenyan, one is 20 times more. So what functions, what adds productivity per person? So that even as we do what we are doing in our own areas, we also focus on that. The number one thing is called technology. And technology comes from education. You can't talk about technology devoid of education. Information. Information is the one that brings technology that does things more efficiently. Where you go to Europe, you realize there is a person with a 10,000 acre farm with only 20 people tending after that farm. But you here, you have 2 acres, but you have 100 people tending after that farm. So what is the productivity per person there? Are we actually creating just social jobs, or are we creating productivity for our people? So that's how it comes in. So you go to Ethiopia, just like in Kenya. The biggest thing we are doing, which we are very proud of, we are creating, we are calling them EPZs, for people to go become tailors. Why? Because labor is cheapest in Ethiopia. So you look for the place people can do something for you almost for free. So that's where you go for it. And those are the things we come to chest dump as leaders, that we are creating jobs for our African people. We are not creating jobs. We are keeping them busy. Productivity per person is something that we must keep on propagating at the basic level education, at a higher level technology. That's where universities come in, and that is where we add the value of the person as the provider of labor. In economic interaction,